stage, well, the time that I stood on the stage last year, I was the state director of special education. And I'm happy to be able to serve with a whole new wonderful set of crew. Oh, the slides look a little strange. I'm going to keep going. So today, I'm just going to do a very general overview of some of the highlights of pathways that VR can support towards employment for individuals with disabilities, and summarizing a few along the way. And afterwards, there will be folks from VR here, as well as myself, to help answer any questions that you may have off the stage. So first, a general overview of who we are. So we're a federal state program. That means we receive some state money and some federal money that goes into a big bucket that helps us to provide services, supports, and programs for individuals with disabilities as they work towards employment or enhanced independence. And we are statewide. We are separated into areas, and each area has different offices that provide support to individuals. You can see on this map where those areas are located. Those are the area offices, the area directors who direct all of the units and folks, VR staff that work in each area, and their phone numbers. So if you can see where you live on the map, you know who to call. Okay. So the next slide talks about some of our partners, and we have many. The Able Trust, which is our direct support organization, so they help us do some programs and like High School High Tech. Florida Alliance for Assistive Technology, many of you may have seen their booth in the exhibit hall. Career Source, Economic Opportunity, Bees, Bureau of Exceptional Ed and Student Services, and these are just a few. So some highlights of some of our successes. And these numbers are from last fiscal year, so 21, 22. And I'm sure when we review these at the end of this year, we'll see even more ways that VR can help the state. And this is something that I mentioned last night, that for every dollar that goes into VR programs, we return about $10.50 back to the state economy. And that's a big return on investment. We have 224 jobs that were saved through job retention services offered through vocational rehabilitation, 646 businesses served by our BR unit, our business relation unit, and 849 employers hired 2 or more VR customers last year in the state of Florida. So those are some big successes that we should celebrate, mostly due to the hard work of the boots on the ground counselors serving every day all through the state. So, how are you determined eligible for service? To be considered eligible for VR, vocational rehabilitation services, you have to have a physical or mental disability that results in a barrier to employment. And then there has to be a need for VR services to find, get, keep, or advance in a job. You'll notice in some of these slides there are some links at the bottom, and I'm sure these slides will be provided later on through the Family Cafe site. So if you're interested in getting more information, you can see us at our booth in the exhibit hall, or you can click on some of those links. The role of the VR counselor. So we have roughly between 500 and 600 VR counselors throughout the state, serving in the 7 areas. And those VR counselors are the heart of what we do. They provide VR customers with information, resources, guidance, and counseling. I received some myself last night from a VR counselor. As a parent of a student with disability, it really helps. They also help customers learn about their strengths, identify priorities, where their interests lie to help prepare them for employment. And they work closely with our VR customers or participants to write it has the same three letters as the educational plan, but they're in a little bit different order. IPE, or an individualized plan for employment. They arrange services for VR customers to attain employment. They also can provide more information on the types of services that are available to our VR customers and participants. And those are just a few highlights. We all know that our VR counselors do so much more than this. Okay, now to the meat of the presentation. There are many pathways to employment that VR supports through our services and the folks who work for us. And you can be eligible for them when you are a middle schooler, you can be eligible for them as a high schooler, and you can access them as an adult. And we're going to take these in chunks. So let's talk about middle school, which is one of my favorite age groups. It's where I started teaching many, many, many decades ago. Beginning at age 14, every student with a disability has the opportunity to participate in something we like to call pre-ETS, or pre-employment transition services. I think in education and in VR, we share our love for acronyms, so there'll be several that you'll encounter through the slides. So the pre-ETS services, or pre-employment transition services, have 5 main buckets that they go into. Job exploration counseling and post-secondary education counseling. Those are the counseling buckets, 1, 2. And then there's self-advocacy training, which includes that peer mentoring piece. There's another acronym, WBLE, Work-Based Learning Experience, and WRT, or Work Readiness Training. We're going to take those in little buckets. So the first of the 2 counseling types for pre-employment transition services, or pre-ETS, that middle schoolers can participate in include job exploration counseling, where they talk about job options, and and the goal is to foster motivation, to consider what those opportunities are. Helps you as an individual recognize the relevance of high school and post-education training, post-school training, on the future and your employment goals. So both in college or in the workplace. So there's job exploration counseling, and then the next one is post-secondary educational counseling. And that talks about comprehensive transition programs, career and CTE, or career and technical education, and then other post-secondary training or education programs. The third is self-advocacy training, which is so important. It's some of the most difficult training to work with students on, because it's more soft skills oriented, but you talk their abilities, their needs, and that's the most important, how to communicate about those things. What does it look like when you're interviewing for a potential job or applying to schools or universities? How do you communicate those things to others? And that's a big part of self-advocacy training, and I think one of the most important training that we can offer for our middle school students. A part of that self-advocacy training is youth peer mentoring. I don't know if you have middle schoolers yourself, but sometimes they hear things better from folks their own age than they do from adults. And so that's where peer mentoring rises in importance in the age group that we work in. And it's intensive, it's time limited, it leverages that same age peers to engage with youth and connect them to resources, and also provide social support, which is another really key component to this age group in success. Not only in education or social success, but also in those employment successes in the future. Then we get to the last other acronyms, WBLE, Work-Based Learning Experiences. They're community-based, work-based experiences that are like real-world experiences to provide students with those knowledge and skills of what it actually looks like to work in a certain place. And then work readiness training. This is another important kind of soft skill on ramping them to what employment looks like in the future. What is interviewing like? How do you write a resume? How do you problem solve in the workplace if you run into a concern? How do you communicate your needs and within the workplace? So these are soft skills, employability skills. That's work readiness training. That kind of wraps up the 5 pre-ed buckets for middle schoolers. It's also for some high schoolers too. The next is some more pathways as a high schooler that VR can help support students in. And in order to prepare them to graduate, you can talk about career and technical education. This is important because there's some overlap here. You can use, if you don't know as a student with a disability, you can use some of those CTE courses educationally, have an educational benefit too as a course substitution for graduation. But where VR comes in is providing access to CTE as a training to get them ready for when they leave high school to make them, to increase that employability of our students with disabilities. And then employment services as a high schooler. So there's also this ability to do some continuing education towards employment. And VR counselors can help coordinate this. And this is specific to accommodations and support for developing college readiness life skills, making a plan for college entrance exams, which can be a little bit more complicated for our youth with disabilities, determining transportation resources or community resources, and building relationships with collegiate advisors, and that's really important. Also accessing those local resources, disability resource centers in the college setting and what that looks like. That was particularly helpful for my own daughter. All right, here's a specific program that is offered through our high school high tech. And if you are interested in learning about where some of these programs are, if you visit the Able Trust's website, they have a really cool map with little stars on it that tell you where all of the high school high tech programs in Florida are. And high school high tech is available for students 14 to 22 with disabilities through a collaboration with our partners, Able Trust, and local school districts. It's year-round, and it's a career and college exploration program that promotes careers in STEM, which we know are rising. Some of these activities you can see bulleted kind of on the left side of this slide are you got school tours for college, university, technical programs. You visit with different industries. There's some guest speakers that come in to talk to students. There's some community service projects, which can help because that's a requirement for high school graduation too, so they can get sign-offs. Career experiences, and there's also several workshops that they can participate through this program. It's really, really picking up speed. And if you go on that page on the Able Trust, you'll see some of the success stories that are shared in these little video clips that I think are particularly cool. So this is Building Readiness in Construction Knowledge, or BRIC. It's one of several programs that help support this area for builders and contractors. And in these programs, you can find them at the EmployU website, or just talk to your VR counselor about it. But it's a partnership. This particular program is a partnership with Brevard County Builders and Contractors and local school districts and local employment service providers. And in it, students get to participate in paid work experiences and internships in construction trades, in various construction trades. It's not only available in Brevard, but it is kind of coordinated through them. And as a result of participation, students receive an OSHA 10 certification that teaches safe practices for high-skilled positions in the construction industry. So it's a really good opportunity. If you're interested in learning more about this program and other programs that support kind of the construction area of employment, then talk to your counselor or come by and visit our booth. They can help you get in touch with the right people. So if you want more information about how your middle schooler or your high school student can participate with VR, because I know sometimes there's confusion. I had it myself as a parent. There's a transition program that you have at the school, and then you have this other thing through this other agency that you may or may not know about. But it's really valuable. So reach out to us, and there's a couple of links here that will help you learn more individually about the pre-ETS program for students in this age group. And of course, I recommend that you reach out to the VR area office that you're in and the local unit office to get in touch with a counselor to see what that might look like for your student. So VR also has over about half of our population that we work with, almost half are students with disabilities, but the other half are adults with disabilities. And whether that adult is looking for a new job or wants to needs support in retaining their existing job, VR can help with that. We can help with some employment or supported employment services, self-employment services, which is a rising area of interest. There, we have a specific unit that helps with deaf hard of hearing or deaf blind, and we work in the deaf blind unit. They work in cooperation with the Division of Blind Services. They have a booth too in the exhibit hall. Independent living programs, and Social Security Administration benefit planning. So these are all helpful and specific programs that an adult with disability can access to help them in their employment goal. Additional VR services, of course, that counseling and guidance for career counseling and guidance, that training component, evaluation and planning, which is a component whether you're a student or an adult, assistive technology and devices, job coaching, job placement, another acronym OJT or on-the-job training, job site assessment for accommodations, supported and customized employment, medical psychological assessments, time-limited medical or psychological treatments. This is just a very small list of all of the different services that we can provide support with. And of course, it has those handy-dandy links on the bottom of the page. So this was a super short presentation, but I think the overall message is that there are so many pathways forward towards that one goal: increased and enhanced independence and a meaningful employment, which it really helps and is important to all of us, whether we have a disability or not. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your presence at this conference. I will be here off stage with some folks if you have additional questions or if there's anything I can help you with. All right, guys, thank you.